Good morning, everyone. Hope everyone's doing well on this Monday morning.
Morning.
Just remind everyone, and I saw Gabby just put it in the chat, to please scan the QR code to make sure your attendance is recorded, so everyone can get their credit. Might give just one more minute to see if we've got 22 people on the call already, so that's probably enough to get started. Want to respect everyone's time. All right, we'll go ahead and get started. For those that don't know me, which is probably plenty of you on the call, I am Patrice Walker. I am the Chief Medical Officer at Atrium Health Navicent down in Macon. And we've had a changing of the guard, so to speak, for the Trauma Administrators Committee. And I have transitioned into the committee chair role from Michelle, who has moved on to bigger and better things. She's the chief nursing officer at Grady now, so she's got her hands full, and I'm excited to take over the
whatever she says. Then somebody give me a color.
Okay, thank you. Just ask everyone to make sure you're on mute if you're not speaking. But I'm very excited to take over the leadership of this committee, and hopefully we will have a great year this year. So with that, do we have quorum, Gabby?
Yes, we have majority.
Okay, excellent. Thank you. With that being said, hopefully everyone was able to review the minutes from our last meeting on July 24th. We will need to approve those minutes. I'm happy to take a motion for approval.
Motion for approval of the minutes.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second for approval of the minutes. Anyone opposed? All right, minutes are approved. Thank you all very much. Next thing on the agenda, we will have Regina give us any Trauma Commission or TCAA updates.
Thank you, Dr. Walker. Good morning, everybody. Liz asked me, I participated in a TCAA webinar recently regarding an upcoming OIG audit. I apologize, I'm in the hallway. Hold on just a sec. I hear a lot of noise in the background. I think he's coming down here. I'm sitting outside the elevator. Keep going. Okay, Gabby, could you go on to them? Do you have the slides? Oh, there you go. I wanted to be sure, or Liz and I wanted to be sure that everybody was aware that the OIG is currently reviewing and doing some analytics regarding Medicare payments for trauma claims. Georgia is included, it's all over the country. They put the announcement out on November 22, and they're currently doing their reviews and assessments of that, as you can see here on this list. And then we're expected to have some further follow-up if you're either needing further information from centers, and then the results out sometime in 2024. Next slide, please. Oop, okay. So the scope of the audit and why they're doing it is ACS is ACS, listen to me, sorry. OIG has heard some concerns being raised about improper billing for activations when they are not medically necessary. And there have also been hospitals who have been billing the 68X revenue code and the G0390 critical care code who are not ACS verified or state or government designated. So they are looking at that. And as you know, the results of this audit will impact every one of us because it may impact the amount of reimbursement we receive in the future. Next slide, please. So what are they going to consider overpayment if they're looking at your charts and your records and your documentation? Again, it's anyone that's billing a 68X, that's 1, 2, 3. Who are not state verified or a state designated or ACS verified. Those are who are attaching the G code to the outpatient claims. If the care is not medically necessary based on the documentation submitted with the claim. And then again, if there isn't a match between the G0390 and enough supporting documentation to support critical care billing of 99291 on the facility side as well. Not the physician side, they're looking at facility reimbursement and payments. Next slide. So how will you know if your center is being selected? You might not know. They are currently maybe reviewing your data and haven't reached out yet, or your claims have been selected, but they have been determined to be appropriate claims. And so they're moving on. And then you can see below how they're looking at utilizing their analytics to determine which cases need further review. Well, you can do this internally if you're concerned about the audit. You can look at the number of 68X claims if it's disproportionate to your charges, if you're not seeing supporting documentation, if there isn't enough support for critical care billing, but your charge master automatically applies the G code to it. If you see things like that, then that might be something for you to start reviewing and look at just in case they call you with further information. And the next slide, Gabby, I have. And offense is the best defense. I know we've talked about this a fair bit in this meeting, but I do think, and I know Dr. Walker is going to talk a little bit more about this for future meetings, is doing some additional finance education and training for the administrator group, and having a finance PI committee is really the best way for us to move forward, having some financial dashboards, looking at sharing financial policies and procedures. We just recently developed a guideline for billing specific to 68 revenue code, and the activation fees also for pre-notification and post-notification added to the 450 revenue code. When we should include critical care, what does that mean? I think we can learn from each other. We all have different ways of monitoring and measuring critical care. So getting this group together to talk about those things of ensuring that we have the right documentation, the right policies in place, and again, developing a finance dashboard so that we can track these things ahead of time so we don't get caught by surprise. I did just want to share that with you all. I don't know if anybody on this call has any additional information or have heard anything in addition about the audit or has received a letter from the OIG at all. We can certainly work together to support each other if this comes up. I'm sorry, somebody was going to make a comment.
From administrators meeting.
All right,
Regina, this is Becky Weidler. I haven't not heard anything about this, but would you be willing to share these slides to the group so we can add them?
Certainly, yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. Any other questions for Regina in regards to these audits? All right, any other updates under Trauma Commission or TCAA, Regina?
No, that was all I had slide-wise. I know that later on the agenda, there's some information for the administrators regarding the performance-based pay. I know there's a couple points we want to bring to their attention and then show them the changes from last year. So I have nothing else at this time.
Okay, thank you. So we'll move on to the new business. The next thing is we wanted to review the proposed meeting dates for 2024. As you see in front of your screen, these were also sent out, I believe, as an attachment. So hopefully you've had time to review them. And of course, note at the bottom that administrator attendance is tied to our performance-based pay. So you are required to attend 75% of these meetings. So the next meeting after this one will be in January. The main one that I want to bring your attention to is the May meeting. So for 2024, we have had to move what historically has been the winter meeting, which happened in the February timeframe, but due to some scheduling conflicts, that meeting has had to be pushed out until later in the spring, May. So this date of May the 20th is aligned with the GQIP meeting. But what we're proposing is to have the administrators attend a workshop, we'll use that word for right now, on that Monday afternoon. So I believe that the GQIP meeting itself really starts that Tuesday. There may be some higher level meetings that Monday, but we would like to have some time just for the administrators to come together outside, or I guess in parallel with the GQIP meeting. We want this group to be a benefit and a resource to all of the members. And I think we, since I have been participating the last couple of years, we're still trying to find our footing in terms of making sure that we're really being that resource and benefit to the best that we can be. And so our hope is that if we have a little bit more dedicated time on that Monday afternoon, we can put together a program. Some of it will be just a little bit of team building and getting to know each other. As Regina said, we have a wide variety of people, various levels of trauma facilities that are all a part of this group. And so we can be each other's resources as well. Many times in hospital administration, we are, we have that business mentality where we want to keep, all the knowledge, and we think of our colleagues, as our competitors. But in terms of this committee, we really want to facilitate you all feeling like we're not competing, we're here to help each other. And so part of that time on Monday will just be spent getting to know our fellow administrators, but also there will be, some additional components that we hope will be useful. We're still finalizing exactly what the agenda will look like, but we're looking at, starting sometime in the late afternoon so that hopefully we can all do a little bit of work that morning before heading into the meeting. So more to come on that, but just wanted to point out that that date because it's a little different than it's been in years past. And then you see the other dates that are all virtual listed on that. So I'm happy to answer any questions or take any feedback in terms of these proposed meeting dates.
Patrice, this is Becky Weither. I think that's a great idea about getting us together, in person and doing some activities. My thoughts would be, is there any thought about moving the July meeting to maybe August, being that we've just met in May? That would be just right at a 2-month turnaround time. I don't know if what that looks like for everybody, if we bump that a little bit, at least till August, with May being the biggest gap being between January and May. That would be my only feedback.
Okay, I think that's an excellent idea. Let me run that by Liz. I don't think she's on the call today. I personally don't have any problem with it. And as long as Liz says, there's no reason why we can't, then I'm fine with that. And I think that's a great idea to put a little bit of more time in between those meetings. So thank you. Any other comments or questions? Okay, so I kind of rolled 1 and 2 up together there. So we can move down to the third item, which kind of segues into what I was really talking about in terms of making sure this group is meeting the needs of its members. One of the things that Dr. Ashley, as the chair of the commission, really wants is to make sure that our hospital members are educated, that regardless of the settings that we find ourselves in, as administrators, we should all be able to, understand and speak to and advocate for the various, needs of our organization in terms of trauma. And in order for us to be those advocates, we need to make sure that we are all educated as well. So those of you on the call may recall that when we were at the Barnsley meeting, we had TCAA come in and do a finance overview that was just excellent. I jotted down, copious notes, and we came back home and tried to make sure that we had those things in place. And so one of the things that we are considering for the GQIP, meeting is a sort of a part 2 to that. It was a lot of information sort of jam packed into that time frame that we had, and we think that there's plenty of additional information that could be a part 2 to that initial finance meeting. And so we have reached out to TCAA to see what their availability is. Regina, do you know if we've heard back from them yet?
I have not heard from Liz if she's heard back from TCA. I can text her. She is currently at the COT meeting in Boston, which is why she's not on this call. But let me check with her while we've got everybody on, and I will see what she has, if she's heard back from them.
Okay.
I'd also be curious to know, I don't want to assume that administrators know everything about their trauma program. Dr. Walker, you made a great point when you talked about administrators advocating for their trauma programs and understanding the ins and outs and nuances of it. So please forgive me. I'm not asking this question because I think you guys aren't engaged or know, but again, I don't want to make an assumption. Are all the administrators aware of the different components of the trauma program, sort of what the role is of each member, the trauma program manager? You may have a trauma director, you may have a PIT coordinator, education, outreach, injury prevention, registry staff, what they do. Would it be helpful to do a brief high-level summary of what each of these roles are, and from the ACS's perspective in the state, sort of what they're supposed to be doing, so to give a broader base picture of what the trauma program is?
So it looks like someone in the chat, Angela Gary, said that she is aware of the roles from the ACS perspective.
Yes, Angela is very engaged. You don't count, Angela.
Okay.
Yeah, if you are interested, you can go ahead and put a comment in the chat or reply to the email. If you think you guys have a good handle on that and don't need it, that's fine too. I just wanted to check.
Okay, someone else is also very aware. ACS survey is in 2 weeks. Good luck. Excuse me. Good luck. So yes, you can continue to drop comments in the chat in regards to that. That's kind of an informal survey. I was going to look back. We did, in the past, we did do a survey, or I don't know if it was us or TCAA that did a survey about, what were, your greatest needs. And I believe Liz had sent out a little something about that. Yeah, it was a pre-questionnaire for that finance workshop. That's what it was. So we had actually sort of pulled up, you know, what people's responses were in terms of in preparation for that program, so that we could make sure that TCAA was going to, you know, include what, you know, people needed most. So it may be that once we confirm TCAA's availability, it may be that we do another survey similar to that one, especially in light of the fact that we had that education last year. So we don't want it to be repetitive. So we may, in conjunction with them, you know, develop another brief survey. I hate surveys, so it'll be a brief survey, but we want to make sure that we are meeting your needs. So if there's, you know, new information that TCAA can bring, it looks like folks are saying they're fairly aware of the role, so that's good. But we'll make sure that the information that's shared is curated to the needs of the group. All right, and then the next thing was Regina was going to do the FY 2025 Trauma Center performance based payment review. There's a couple of changes and some things that we just want to make sure as administrators we highlight as part of that.
See, I believe Katie's on too. But
Yes,
did-
I'm here.
here you are. You want to review the changes to the PPP, and then the one thing that I wanted to mention to the group is they're pulling up, I think we've got a couple of screenshots and slides from the performance-based pay, because we wanted to make sure that everybody was aware at all levels of the performance-based requirement of attendance at meetings. I know as we get into some reductions or concerns from a finance standpoint, often travel for education gets looked at and scrutinized very closely. And so we encourage all of our folks that are required to attend to be sure when they submit the travel authorizations that they write on there somewhere that it is a required meeting. The commission is requiring face-to-face participation in TQIP for both the program manager, the medical director, a designee, and a registrar. And so we really need you guys to help support and push through if there's any pushback on getting these travel authorizations. This is why centers receive some of this readiness funding from the commission, is to offset the cost to hospitals to be able to send their staff members to these national meetings, to be able to network and do the best they can when they come back to your facility with the data, how to read your TQIP reports, make it meaningful, and continue to strive to improve patient care, which is our ultimate goal. Participation in this quarterly meeting is also a performance-based pay requirement, as you know, but really we did want to highlight the travel and make sure that everybody was aware that it's just not something that they're asking to go to because it's in a great location or they want to go somewhere, but it is a requirement and it is purposeful for us to see and learn together as a group. We have a collaborative group meeting at all of the TQIPs. We usually have a very large showing. And we've been recognized as national leaders in terms of TQIP and systems quality improvement at these meetings. So I think that says a lot for Georgia and the work that we do together. All right, there you go. And Gabby, if you want to, Katie, if you just want to go over the changes, most of you probably are aware these comes as attachments to your contracts every year. And we just wanted to highlight the changes from FY24 to FY25 and then entertain any questions that you may have.
Okay, so on your screen, you'll see the changes for FY25. The first one for all centers, we added back the maintenance of registry record closure rate of 80% within 60 days. Also for all centers, we have the GQIP data submission requirement timeframe. For level 3s, we have the ACS verification requirement, which we extended to FY26 instead of FY25 as it has been in the past couple of years. And then for level 4s, we have the NTDB data submission changed to annual and also submission of PI plan. Are there any questions on those? All right.
Dr. Walker, anything you want to add about the performance-based pay requirements and some things that I know when we had touch base to prep for this call, you had mentioned there were some things you weren't aware of. Any things to point out?
Oh, I had just given myself, so in full transparency, you know, as an administrator with budgets, you know, I did not realize that certain of the meetings, some of the meetings I knew were required, but not, you know, I wasn't really aware of which ones. And so, you know, I went to my program manager and said, hey, you know, do we have to go to all these meetings? You know, travel is one of the first things that we look at in terms of where can we shave off a few pennies. And so she was like, yes, it's required. It's part of our, you know, contract. And so we just wanted to make sure that everyone on this call was aware, because sometimes, you know, travel gets cut, and those dollars are really important, because these, you know, there are certain requirements for various, you know, meeting attendance. So I'm guilty as charged, but am now more educated than I was before, and so wanted to make sure the rest of you all had that information as well.
And yes, and on your screen now, it just shows all the criteria for all the centers, but that first page was just the summary of changes for FY25.
All right, very good. Thank you all for that. And again, you all should have received this as well in your in your attachments.
Hey, Dr. Walker, this one particularly wasn't attached, but I can send out after the meeting.
Okay, I think that'll be great, because it's a nice summary sort of snapshot document. I think it'd be great for the administrators to have this high level overview.
And this is the proposed
Yeah.
FY 2025, so it hasn't been approved just yet.
Gotcha. Okay, proposed. Thank you for clarifying.
I think, Gabby, if we put draft on it, it will be voted on by the full commission at the November meeting. So as you, as administrators, review the content, if you have any stakeholder feedback or comments, please let us know so that we can take that under advisement when we do the final draft to submit to the full commission at the November meeting for final approval.
Excellent. Okay, I did see in the chat back up a few minutes ago, someone had asked about a preferred template for the finance PI dashboard. And Regina did mention that there had been a finance subgroup that had begun working on a framework for the dashboard, but that's kind of stalled. And so, Regina, do you have any update on that? Do you think that body of work is going to be picked back up? Or, you know, we did talk some during our planning meeting about the dashboard, so I don't know if there was any kind of update you could give.
Yeah, I think that would be great. I'm willing to share sort of what we've put together at our facility. We do now have a finance PI team. We meet every other Friday. And we reconcile finance charges to charts every day. I think hopefully when we get into a better process and flow, we can back off a little bit on the daily audits, but we do daily audits currently. And I can share that with you I have a flow diagram of how we do that. What we haven't really been able to figure out is what do we want on what does the financial dashboard look like? It would be great if there's a few folks on this committee who have an interest in that piece of things, who may have some ideas of what the KPIs could be for finance. You know, obviously maybe number of pre-activations, number of post-activations. Are all your patients that come in as trauma patients type 5 form, you know, appropriate on the billing forms that go out, things like that we audit every day. But I'm trying to figure out how do you put that on there, you know, what's your numerator and denominators, and then what's our threshold and goals, so that we can start looking at this on an ongoing trending basis like we do with, you know, our patient PI. It's a little bit different, but the principles can apply as well, because now we're getting into some the denials phase, particularly with one carrier. So we're working really hard to put denial packets together that are standardized. So it looks very seamless, and there's a lot of intent behind it to support the documentation for the billing that we're putting in. So that's something I think we're more than happy to share with everybody, and people can share their ideas so we can come up with what we think in the States are best practice.
Excellent. And that may be something that we can discuss, you know, next year in May. You know, we've got a little time between now and then, so maybe we can, you know, have some ideas ready for discussion and do some work at that May meeting. All right, very good. In terms of just summary and action items, so just so everyone sort of FYI, for the, you know, OIG report that Regina gave, hopefully no one here in Georgia will be negatively affected by that. As far as the proposed meeting dates, I will follow up with Liz to see about potentially moving the July meeting to August. So you'll receive some follow-up on that, as well as follow up on the agenda planning for Chateau once we are able to confirm whether or not TCAA is going to be able to do kind of the part 2 from that. And if they are, be on the lookout potentially for a survey to make sure we can curate that information. And then we'll also send out the draft of the performance based payment document for you all to review. Really, that's it. QR code. Very good for those that may have joined once we had kind of gotten started. Here's the QR code once again. Please make sure you scan that. We want to make sure we have everyone attendance. That's all we had on the formal agenda. I'm happy to take any comments or questions from any committee members. All right, if all hearts and minds are clear, then we can adjourn. And again, I think our next meeting is not until January. So I will see everyone in January in the new year. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Thank you.